Itaewon Semi here. Legal rights in Korea, or your legal rights in Korea, or laws that are different in Korea than they are in the West. So today I'm going to talk about, the things I found and learned that are shockingly different about the law in Korea than it is in the West. Now I'm Canadian, so I'm going to talk mostly about Canadian or maybe North American laws. So Korea is a democracy, but not really. So the first rule, the first law, I'll talk about citizens, Korean citizens, but this extends to even foreigners, tourists, and visa holders. Now, the number one thing for visa holders is that you cannot participate in any political demonstration. Any demonstration or protest is a violation of your visa and you will be deported, or you can be deported. So it's a violation of your visa. So you cannot be involved in any kind of protest. If you're caught, you can technically be deported. So that's the number one thing. But for a Korean citizen, the number one thing, and this has been in the news recently, is that Korean law extends beyond Korea's borders. So something that is illegal for Koreans to do, if you're caught doing it in another country where it's legal, you can be prosecuted upon your return. So number one thing, gambling. So if you go to America and you go to Vegas and you gamble, which is perfectly legal, and you're caught by Korean law enforcement, like say on your social media or something like that, or someone takes a picture of you and follows you, when you return to Korea, you can be prosecuted. And now a lot of Korean expats in Canada have been warned by the Korean embassy, not to smoke marijuana. Even though it's legal in Canada, if you get caught, you will be prosecuted. There are some famous prosecutions of Koreans who went overseas, gambled, or consumed narcotics, and when they returned to Korea were prosecuted. They're mostly TV stars or musicians because they're public figures. The second law that is quite interesting, that I found interesting, is the libel and slander law. In Korea, libel and slander laws are very strict. If you slander or libel someone, even if it's true, you can be prosecuted. So if you, for example, post on social media that this guy cheated you, even though he's convicted of cheating you, you can be prosecuted for libel or slander because you're dishonoring him, even though it's true. So, I mean, you can say it, but if you take it to the next level where you like constantly posting like hundreds and hundreds of times, there's a documented case of this where the person went overboard and was posting everywhere about this person that they had a disagreement with, that was convicted of fraud. So that's the second thing. Another side note to that is so number three. Let me go on to number three. An interesting law that I learned in Korea. If you let me take a step back. Adultery was illegal in Korea up until just last year. If you were caught committing adultery, you could have been jailed. People were. But it's now no longer illegal. So, on that, if you, a guy, profess your love to a woman and promise her that you're going to marry her so that you can have physical relations with her, and then you renege on that promise, you can be jailed for up to 2 years. And there are cases like that proven in court. And a famous Korean actor is actually going through trial on that right now. That's another one, videotaping in public. You are not allowed to videotape people in public. You will notice if you look at video footage of Korean on Korean television, everyone's face is blurred out, even their voice. License plate numbers, buildings, their signs are all blurred out. You cannot show people's faces. Even convicted criminals have their faces protected. people who are accused of crimes, their identities are protected. They're not disclosed, unlike North America. I found that very different. Speaking of crimes, let's say, for example, you got into a fight, and somebody assaulted you, or you got into a car accident, and the person was guilty. You haven't gone to trial yet. The prosecutor here will try to have the case settled without going to court. And there's something called blood money. So if you accept a settlement, you'll sign a contract and withdraw the charges for money. And the person doesn't have a criminal record. But there are cases like that, and it happens all the time. Blood money is paid out. I know several people who have received it for minor things, right up until sexual assault or car accidents. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. Another one to that is there is no self-defense law in Korea. If you are attacked, you are obligated to run away. There is no stand your ground. There is no self-defense. A very famous case, a foreigner on the 3rd floor of a building heard something at his window, went to the window and saw a Korean trying to break in. The guy had a pole. The Westerner took the pole away and hit the guy. The guy fell, broke his leg or got hurt or something like that. The Westerner was arrested and charged. He had to pay blood money to the guy to get the charges dropped. Because the judge said once you took the pole away from him, he was no longer a threat. You could have closed the window and called the police. So there is no self-defense law in Korea. On that note, there is no discrimination law in Korea. So it is perfectly legal to discriminate on any grounds. That's why you'll notice a lot of places will say in the entertainment district, certain age, no foreigners, etc., etc. So it's perfectly legal to do that. They tried to push through an anti-discrimination law through Parliament several times since I've been here over the 10 years, but the Christian church or whatever, their groups protest against that to the government because of the fear of promoting homosexuality. So they don't like that it protects same-sex and etc. So that's another law that is very interesting. So another one that I find interesting is that what's the other one? So that was anti-discrimination, libel, slander, blood money. All men aged age of majority to I think about the age of 30 must serve 18 months to 24 months in the military. It is mandatory. You must do your mandatory military service for obvious reasons. South Korea is technically at war with North Korea, so that's the other thing. Conscientious objectors, up until recently, I think just earlier this month, the Supreme Court struck down that they must serve in the military. They said the government must provide an alternative measure for people who are conscientious objectors, predominantly Jehovah's Witnesses, from serving in the military. They must provide them with an alternative solution. I think that's also because of the change in the stance towards North Korea right now. The Supreme Court has ruled against that. So those are some of the things that I found that are completely different between the West and South Korea. One little tip I will give every foreigner coming here to Korea is look up your rules and laws and understand them, because you are a guest here in this country. You cannot expect that what you expect in your country to be the same here. Number one rule I've told all my friends is never get involved in an argument with a Korean. You will lose. Physically and legally, because the cops come, they'll arrest you. It's just a fact. Unless you speak Korean, unless you're a Korean citizen, unless you can, there's just no going around it. It's not racist or discriminatory. It's just a fact. This is their country. You're a guest. So unless you're a Korean citizen, and there's not many foreigners who are Korean citizens. You can be a permanent resident, but that still doesn't matter. All right. So that's my tip for you and my advice for you. It's a great country. I love living here. You just need to live within the rules of this country and learn them. You would expect the same thing, people coming to your country. So, with that said, Itaewon Sammy, living life out.